Good day to all of you and welcome back to the channel. It's been a minute since I've uploaded a video. I've been going through some stuff personally, job loss, forced to sell my camera gear, and honestly, the motivation just wasn't there for me. I always knew I'd come back at some point, but it definitely took me longer than I thought it would. Now that I'm starting to put some of that behind me, I've got a video for you. It's a simple one to start, but right now, I'm just putting one foot in front of the other. And let me say, it's been amazing to see my channel growing, even though I haven't posted in some time. So welcome to all the new subscribers and thank you for following along. My name is Chris and here we talk about food photography. If that's an interest that we share, I'd love you to subscribe to the channel and keep in mind, comments and feedback is always welcome. Today we're talking about the 5 most common mistakes I see amateurs make in food photography. Although I wasn't able to do much shooting myself for the last 8 or 9 months, I spent a lot of time doom scrolling on Reddit and Pinterest and Instagram, absorbing all the food photography that I could. And I began to notice these same mistakes over and over by beginner photographers. In all honesty, I wasn't any better. I made all these mistakes myself when I got started. And I wish someone would have pointed them out to me. So that's why I'm focused now on eliminating these mistakes in my own photos. Although once in a while, these things still happen. But these mistakes matter because even if the food looks great in real life, these issues can make a photo look dull, confusing, or just not very appetizing. The good news is every one of these mistakes is fixable. In this video, I'm going to break down 5 of the biggest ones that I see. We'll talk about why they happen and how to correct them. Along with some of my own photos, I'll be using examples from some Reddit photographers who were kind enough to let me use their images. I'll be including their Instagram links, so make sure to give them a follow as well. The first mistake I see all the time is bad white balance. It's an easy mistake to make as we hold these really expensive machines in our hands and we ask it to manage the white balance for us in auto mode. The truth is, I find auto white balance to be one of the biggest weaknesses of any modern day digital camera. This one can ruin a photo immediately. Sometimes people look at their image and they just think that it feels off, but you can't explain why, and most of the time the answer is color. The whites aren't actually whites, the image looks yellow or maybe it looks blue, sometimes there's even a strange kind of green tint to it. And when the color is wrong, the food looks wrong. Chicken can start to look gray, cream sauces can turn yellow, and bread could be dull. Fresh ingredients start to look flat and lifeless instead of bright and green. These usually happen because beginners rely entirely on the auto white balance, or they shoot under mixed lighting, which is actually probably more common. For example, you might be shooting near a window, but you still have the warm kitchen lights on above you that are casting a different color temperature. So now your camera is trying to balance 2 completely different light sources with 2 different light colors, and that usually fails. The easiest fix is simple. If you're using window light, turn the other lights off. Keep your lighting consistent. That alone will solve a lot of the white balance problems. Another thing I recommend is training your eye to look at the neutral parts of your photos. Look at the plate, look at the napkin, look at anything that's white or gray, and ask yourself, does this actually look white? If the answer is no, your white balance probably needs to be adjusted. Now this can be corrected during editing, especially if you shoot in RAW. RAW files give you much more flexibility to adjust color later, but that said, it's still best to get these things as close to perfect in camera, because the more accurate your color is, the more believable your food will look. Lastly, if you're looking to dial your white balance in manually because RAW is not an option or you can't control the lighting, look at getting a gray card. You can learn more about that here in this video I've done before. I'll also link it down below. The second mistake I see constantly is frame maintenance, and what I mean by that is distractions around the frame. And this is one that makes photos look amateur very quickly. When someone is new to food photography, they tend to focus only on the dish, and they forget to look at everything else that's in the image. But the camera sees everything. It sees the stain on the napkin. It sees the hot spots that draw the eye away from your subject. It sees the random object creeping into the corner, and it sees that messy kitchen background that's, competing with the food. In real life, our eyes filter these things out. A photograph does not. Everything in that frame becomes part of the composition. So if there's clutter, the viewer's eye gets distracted, and the food stops being the hero. The goal in food photography is very simple. The food should always be the star of the image. Everything else should support it or get out of the way. Now, that doesn't mean your scene has to be empty. Props can absolutely help tell a story, whether it's a napkin, a fork, a glass, ingredients relevant to the subject. All those things can work, but they need to be intentional. Does this object make the image better, or is it just there? If the answer is it's just there, then just get rid of it. So before you press that shutter button, scan the entire frame of your image. Look at the corners, look at the edges, look behind the plate. If something doesn't belong there, clean it up. The third mistake is lighting, and honestly, this is probably the biggest one. Lighting is everything in food photography. It determines the mood, it reveals the texture, and it makes food look fresh or flat and lifeless. One of the most common beginner mistakes is simply using whatever light happens to be there. Overhead kitchen lights or random lamps or mixed lighting from multiple directions. That usually produces flat and unflattering images. Food needs directional light. Directional light creates shape. It creates shadows. It reveals highlights and textures. Things like crispy crusts and glossy sauces and delicate herbs, those textures are what make food look appetizing. The easiest lighting to start with is still window light. It's soft, it's natural, and it teaches you how light behaves. Try placing your setup near a window, not directly in the sun, but close to the window. Turn off all the other lights and then watch how the light moves across the food. Side light often works beautifully. That's what I use a lot. Backlight can create glow and depth. Front light tends to flatten things by taking away all those shadows, so there isn't much contrast there. You also don't need fancy equipment. A simple white foam board can bounce light into shadows, whereas a black board can add contrast by absorbing some of that light. Even a sheer curtain can soften harsh sunlight. Lighting is less about gear and more about learning to see light. The first video I ever made about food photography was about using window light, and I think that one's right here as well. Again, you can find that here, plus I'll link it below. If you followed my channel for a while, you know I've been using the Godox SL60 and the SL60 2D for the last several years. Well, last month, Godox sent me their Lightman's LE300BI and asked me to use it, and if I liked it, asked if I would share it with my audience. So yes, this is a free review unit. They didn't write the script, and they don't get to approve what I say. The SL60 has been a workhorse for me. It's simple, reliable, and plenty for a lot of small setups. But the LE300BI is a different animal, starting with the power. It's a 320 watt bicolor LED light. That's a massive jump from the SL60's good enough 60 watt output to, okay, now we're talking. While it's bright enough to use for your food setup, it's also soft enough to use on faces in front of a camera like I'm doing right now. And as good as the SL60 was, a lot of that power was diminished behind a softbox. This LE300BI light is bicolor and runs 2800K to 6500K. So if you're mixing with window light or you're bouncing off different colored walls, you can dial it in instead of fixing everything in post, which will help you solve some of those white balance issues we spoke about at the top of the video. Lastly, the design is cleaner than I thought for such a powerful light. Godox built in the power supply, so you're not dealing with a separate power brick hanging off a cable. Less clutter, faster setup, and fewer things to snag when you're moving around a kitchen or the studio. Control-wise, you've got onboard controls and a Bluetooth app control. And it supports DMX if you're doing more advanced setups, which means you can daisy chain these lights together if you need more than one. This time around, the Bluetooth with the Godox Light app is a win. Being able to tweak brightness and color temp without walking back and forth lets you focus on shooting or video work. I struggled with the app on the SL60, so I never really used it, but connecting with the LE300BI is fast and more importantly, it's stable. I'll leave a link below if you want to take a closer look at it. It's a little pricier than the SL60, but for 5 times the performance, it's actually quite a good deal. All right, enough of that. Let's get back to the list. So mistake number 4 is choosing the wrong shooting angle. This happens a lot with beginners. People find one angle that they like and they use it for everything. Usually that angle is overhead, and overhead can be great, but it doesn't work for every dish. Food has height, it has layers, it has structure. Your camera angle determines what the viewer sees. If you shoot a burger from overhead, you lose all those layers. If you shoot pancakes from overhead as well, you lose that stack. If you shoot soup from the side, you may not see the ingredients because it's very flat. So different foods want different angles. There are 3 basic angles most food photographers use. Overhead, then about 45 degrees, which roughly equates to sitting down at a table in front of the food, and straight on. Each one highlights different features of the dish. That's not to say those are the only three, but they are the main three. Depending on what you're shooting, you may opt to be somewhere in between those three, again, depending on your dish. The mistakes beginners make is choosing an angle too quickly. They place the dish down, take a photo, and they never experiment. Sometimes the best shot is just a few inches lower or a few inches higher. So move around, try different angles, compare the results, because sometimes a small change in angle makes a huge difference in your photo. So mistake number 5 is filling the frame. Sometimes beginners don't fill the frame enough. The food feels small and far away. It's hard to see and hard to focus on. There's too much empty space around it and the image feels weak. Other times the opposite happens. The frame becomes overcrowded, the food is cramped, props are everywhere, and the composition feels stressful. What we really want is balance. The subject should feel important, but the image still needs to have some breathing room. Everything inside the frame should feel intentional. Another issue is going to be awkward cropping. The edge of a plate gets clipped strangely, or a utensil is half in and half out of the frame. Important parts of the dish sit right on the edge. These things create visual tension, and not always the good kind. Food photography works best when the viewer feels close to the subject. They should see detail and texture and depth. So sometimes you do need to move closer, but do it intentionally and ask yourself, is this crop helping the photo? I'm a big supporter of leaving your images once you've completed all the edits for a day or two, and then coming back to see your edits with fresh eyes. Does this crop still add to your image? This is a great way to critique your own images as well. So those are the 5 most common mistakes I see amateurs make in food photography: white balance, frame maintenance, lighting, shooting angles, and filling the frame. The good news is this: none of these are mistakes that are permanent. They're just part of the learning process, and small improvements in these areas can make a huge difference in your photos. They're the same mistakes everyone makes when starting out, and knowing what mistakes can happen is a great way to avoid them. If you found this video helpful, let me know in the comments which mistakes you struggle with the most. And if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button as it helps me grow the channel. Subscribe for more food photography tips. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.